Welcome to podcast 43. Yes, 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 maybe, but yes.
And we are recording.
All right. Welcome to podcast 43 with our new episode, our first episode of March 2021, in fact. And we are coming to you with a surprise because even though that we had a movie planned, News of the World, which is now pushed back to next week due to scheduling, and then we replaced it with the Richard Lester film starring John Lennon, How I Won the War, which then, in a funny turn of events, the Kino Lorber Blu-ray that me and Fulton were sitting down to watch surprisingly did not have a subtitle track, and
they have the most strongest British accents, and nothing against British people with the strong accent. We just we weren't expecting there to be no subtitle track, so
we could not understand anything that was going on. So we had to switch it up, and we decided on the Bob Clark comedy from 1981, Porky's, for kind of a look at what comedies were like back in the day. And
there's a lot to talk about. There's a good bit. I think it's an interesting movie to look back to given its age. And I think it's also interesting to compare it to modern sex comedies, which I'm kind of interested to do with you, Chris, and to talk about.
Yes.
So it should be I don't want to say too much. I do actually kind of like really want to talk about it, but
we made lemonade out of our situation. So
for those that are dying to hear How I Won the War, what our thoughts are on it, I don't know about Chris. I do plan on watching it one day, but I'm probably gonna have to watch it twice. You can understand what John Lennon is saying, but I don't know if that's because I'm accustomed to his voice, but he doesn't really have a super strong
he is a supporting cast member in the film.
Yeah, that was also a little bit of a surprise to me and Chris, given I think me and Chris have talked about it. But you know, some movies when they age, they want to draw more people to buy it. So they'll kind of make a supporting character look like it's the main character. That's kind of what they did. That's kind of what they did with this one.
Yeah, and I'm surprised that Lester didn't want to make him the main character, because he worked with him twice before with the two Beatles films.
Well, what I thought was, because I've seen interviews with John Lennon where he's talking about it, and it seems like he's a pretty integral part of the movie. Like, he didn't record with the Beatles, or I mean, the Beatles were on break when he went to go record it, and he asked them if it was okay. So it seemed like a pretty all-intensive type of thing for him. But I don't know. I know there are scenes with him that are long, but I just, I'll get around to it one day, but we'll see.
Yeah, unfortunately, if you do want to find a subtitle track and add it to your film, you can really only do that on your computer or something like that. You can't really do that with a player, or at least the one that I have. But it would have come in handy.
It definitely. I mean, I've always wanted a portable Blu-ray player because I love taking them on road trips and stuff. I mean, I used to do it all the time as a kid with the DVD player, but I don't really see myself getting one anytime soon. But I'll look around, see if I can find a subtitle tag somewhere, or subtitle track. Woo! Why did that one give me grief? But yeah. So we'll find a way to understand How I Won the War. Left, right.
Literally, it's literally a modern Buster Keaton or Chaplin or Harold Lloyd comedy with just various audible sounds and slapstick. Uh,
Me and Chris can say this: Hitler does show up for like 4 seconds.
we don't know
We
why.
don't
He's
know
just kind of
why, but
yeah.
he's there. So hopefully one day we'll get to the bottom of understanding that.
What the joke is necessarily, which
Yeah.
is all right. So we guess we can talk about stuff that we watched together, I guess.
Yeah.
Starting off with Dracula 2000 from the year 2000, directed by Patrick Lussier.
I believe
And how
he did the My Bloody Valentine remake, right? That's why
and one of our favorite films, Drive Angry.
Drive Angry. Yeah, that's right. So I'll probably talk about it in a bit, but this is how I came across this movie through the My Bloody Valentine remake, and I saw it and I was like, oh my god, this is awesome. And then we were trying to decide what to watch, and then we saw that
Gerard Butler was
yeah,
Dracula.
and then so he said, you know what, we're doing it. And we're gonna get in Dracula 3000 at some point. So those eager fans of that movie, and be on the lookout for that one too.
That one has Coolio as Dracula.
Yeah, not related, but I'm pretty sure it's definitely inspired by Dracula 2000. But you know, to highlight the some of the cool things about Dracula 2000, it's got Christopher Plummer in it as Van Helsing,
doing a German accent. Rest in peace. And
I'm trying to think of
then
other stuff, but I wouldn't call Danny Masterton isn't really cool, but
no, he's not.
He's not at
cool
all.
at all. Yeah,
he's in it.
For a little, for like a few seconds.
He's the first one to get killed, so I suppose that's a cool thing. They knew to nix him off the
get rid of the creep. Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Johnny Lee Miller is in it. And we got Omar Epps, Nathan Fillion for like
as a preacher for like 3 minutes or something. He's
yeah,
pretty short lived.
It's a fun time. I really do recommend this movie. I since we've seen it, I've been thinking more and more about it and kind of how it really hits that sweet spot of just being like a product of its time, and then also kind of taking the Dracula formula and like doing kind of an inspired weird riff where it's like Dracula is also Judas. I thought that was pretty cool that like Dracula was Judas, and like he was like the reincarnation of Judas Iscariot, and then like it ties into the plot for some reason. You know, no Dracula movie I know has done that. So
I agree, it is fun. To me, when I'm looking for my good early 2000 like kick or late 90s, I don't think it completely like satiates that urge, but I still think it's got some moments that are pretty good. Like all the action is pretty amazing. There's like some sick like Matrix inspired like judo kick backflip things, and people are flying all over the place and people are super powerful, and so that's all pretty funny.
Virgin Records had a pretty big hand in this film.
There's a sick scene where Dracula's like looking up at like this big screen on the side of like Virgin Records, and it's like this sick early 2000s like rock song, and he's like, oh my god, this is so cool. And it's like it's got like the music video is like cut between like lewd women, and they're all like show and he's like, this is what 2000s is. And it's like there's war in it too, if I remember correctly. I don't know, I don't quite remember it completely, but that was a pretty good scene
I think
too.
You're right. Yeah, and then they
like,
my only criticism was that they didn't play the hit Rob Zombie song Dracula, because it would have fit so well for the credits.
Yeah. If I could, to make it better for me, I just would say, the pacing was a little weird. Um, if they could have fixed the pacing a little bit, because it feels like nothing happens but also a lot happens. It's a weird kind of mix, but um, I don't want to expect too much because it is an early 2000s film. But if it was just a little bit more dumb, I should say, it'd be amazing. It would hit that legendary action films that list that I'm working on. But
I don't know. I just
mm,
I think that like I said, the fact that Dracula and Jesus are like tied together, I think that really gets it for me. I think that's like really funny. And then Gerard
mm,
Butler with a great performance as the heartthrob,
as the
and
silent,
in it as the silent, mostly silent Dracula,
the light
just
spoken.
so seductive to all the
Yeah,
women.
all the women want him. Um,
For real.
well, it might grow on me in some time, but as of right now, I do enjoy it. Another film that we got a chance to watch together over the weekend was Alien Resurrection. Which was
Yes.
or was that was a rewatch for you, right, Chris?
Yeah, it was a rewatch.
Mm-hmm.
And I like that one on rewatch
Mm-hmm.
more. I think it was probably because I was with watching it with other people, so
Mm-hmm.
it was better than watching it alone. But it's if you just kind of accept how stupid it is, it's a lot of fun.
I, I pretty much agree, and I think it rightfully holds the title for the grossest aliens movie. I think to me it's the grossest one, but I can't get enough of Ron Perlman as a genre. He's truly great in that film. Um,
Yeah.
I would love to know. I'd love to look at interviews with. Oh no, her name is escaping my mind. Uh, who plays
Winona
Ripley
Ryder.
again?
Oh no, Sigourney
Yeah,
Weaver.
Sigourney Weaver. I'd love to know what it was like for her to be a producer on that film and to okay a lot of the things that happened to her character, and I would just like to see kind of what her thought process was on it. But yeah,
Well,
I
she
think
said there has to be a basketball scene where
where she
where
bests Ron Perlman.
yeah.
um, but were there any other films that you got a chance to watch over the week that you kind of wanted to highlight?
Yeah, so I watched Metropolis finally,
Mm-hmm.
got that one. Got around to that one. I don't know if you've ever heard of it. It's kind of an underground film, but
I know Timothy Chalamet likes it. So.
yeah, it really is really stunning. It's one of those movies that you watch and it's like after I first watched The Godfather or Citizen Kane or Casablanca,
Mm-hmm.
uh, you I'm trying to think of or other just kind of canonical films or 400 Blows, and you watch it and you go, wow, I totally understand why people hold this to such high regard.
Mm-hmm.
It's really a transcendental piece of cinema that is incredible. The Kino Lorber restoration that they did in 2010, so many frames look like clear and just like look like they're pretty much brand new. And I
Mm-hmm.
reading about the transfer that they found in 2008 that they were able to recover pretty much all the film is it's really great that they were able to do that, and that the original film wasn't just completely lost.
Mm-hmm.
And then the score is also incredible, and it really a lot of people don't think about how important. I think a lot of people don't really think about how important scores are in silent movies and how they're pretty much almost more important sometimes because they really add to the atmosphere that since there's no synchronized sound, it's important to rely on that. And the original score that they managed to conduct from the 1927 release really does that.
Mm-hmm.
So
Well,
Yeah,
it's on my
watch, please.
list. Yeah. I think me and you have the same Kino Lorber one when you sent me that photo.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure it's the same one. I'll have to
yeah.
take a look back at mine. I might have a clear case. I don't know how I got that or where it came from,
There's
but I
a
gotta check.
there's a 50-minute documentary that comes with it that
Hmm.
talks about how they restored the film and stuff that I'm looking forward to digging into because you know I always love watching like that type of stuff, like how they reconstruct old films and
Hmm.
touch them up and stuff.
I think it's something
But
that you should still be. I know some film departments. I think I've heard of one in California teaches or film restoration in specifically, but I'd
I
love to
think
take
probably
a
thinking about
yeah.
UCLA because UCLA has a pretty big film archive.
Hmm. Yeah, I don't even remember where it was for some class I read about it. It's probably that, but I would love to take a film restoration class. I think that'd be really interesting. But I don't think any place near me teaches it. But we'll see.
And then
Hmm. Sorry.
I think I want to add to, or I also wanted to bring up Francois Truffaut's The Wild Child
Hmm.
from 1970, which is just based on a true story about a just like a feral boy that they just it's like 11 or something.
Hmm.
He's like 11 or 12 and they find him just like roaming around the woods in France and they try to domesticate him and it's just the story of a doctor played by Francois Truffaut
Hmm.
trying to help this child and it's just a nice story and you kind of look at like how I'm writing a paper on like Truffaut and how he portrays authority and throughout his films and like in this film authority is pretty much society at large, trying to force this child to become a normal boy instead of, a wild a wild child, if you will.
Isn't it based off of a real story?
Yeah, it's based off a real story from I think it happened in like the late 1800s.
Hmm. It was like a case study or something that we had to look at for my psychology class last year. And
Oh,
yeah, that's originally how I heard about the film, but I haven't, it's another film that's been on my watch list. I just haven't seen it yet. But, I didn't get a chance to watch too much other, I didn't get a chance to watch too many films besides than what me and you watched, but I did get a chance to get in the original My Bloody Valentine and the remake, and I just kind of wanted to talk about those for a second. Because I feel like when you think of slashers, I know My Bloody Valentine does get brought up a good bit, but I do kind of feel like it gets overshadowed by Friday the 13th and Nightmare on Elm Street. And I think this is one that, even if you're not really like a slasher or a horror fan, I think it's still pretty good on its own. I'm trying to kind of like figure out how I feel about it because I do really like it. I'm trying to kind of filter that and kind of look at it as if, do I like it so much to where I think it's a very good movie, or do I just am really entertained by it? So, well, I think it's like, so, I might be talking with a little bit of bias, and I'm trying to figure out, which I'll probably have to rewatch it to see if how good of a movie it is on its own right. Um, I did very much enjoy it. Like I was pretty surprised by how much I was entertained by it, and I also like. I know I'm kind of biting my own tongue on this one, but I do actually feel like it's kind of like a well-made film. I love the setting, the production design. The location is a really interesting mix between it being like a mining town, but also like a coast town.
is it one of
Um,
those movies that I mean, because it's a Canadian film, but
mhm.
does it take place in America?
It's I don't really think ever stated because it's weird because it's just like a town, and I could be wrong. I just might not remember it. But it's like a little town called like it's something kind of stupid like Valentine, like Clove, or like something like that. Um, but I was
Mm.
surprised by the acting. Like I thought it was like a little bit better than what I was expecting from a slasher film. Um, and yeah, I mean, I don't know. I definitely think like you should check this one out. It's not really exploitive, in the way that some slashers were, like, in terms of like how they would show women, and women would have sex and then they would die, so you could look into that. And
Yeah,
then you'd always have naked women around, and none of
I think
that's
there is a
really,
lot.
yeah.
Well, I think there is a lot to say about how, yeah, like slashers are arguably some of like the most conservative or reactionary types of films, like
Mm,
in the 80s, or that stuff that was made in the 80s, at least, of genre pictures.
mm,
Slashers were always about conforming to the status quo. Sex is bad. And then, like,
mm,
also the POV shots of a knife kind of, it can kind of, in Halloween especially, is kind of a, it's kind of like phallic imagery in a lot
mm,
of ways with the POV shots and how it's portrayed, or uh Friday the 13th as well,
mm.
even more so.
So
But
there are POV shots in this one. I didn't take it as, I don't know if it's kind, I wouldn't read it as being phallic, at least in this movie, since it's a pickaxe, but I would be
yeah,
interested to see. But I do see where you're coming from, especially with in Halloween, and Friday the 13th. Uh, I was just gonna like, I just was like, it was just better than I was expecting it to be. Like I definitely think it's like a little bit underrated, just a little bit. It just gets overshadowed. But for everything that the original isn't, the remake is. The remake is kind of gimmicky. It's pretty bad. Um, it's bad, but it's entertaining. Like it's actually like pretty entertaining to watch. I may have talked to you a little bit about this, Chris. Not to go too far in depth with this thing, but Jensen Atkins, the he's an actor in Supernatural. He plays the lead in this movie. He is god awful. Uh, and I really don't like saying that about actors. But he's just and this was like in 2007, so he may have changed by now. I don't know. I don't watch Supernatural. So I really don't know how he is. He if he's improved, hopefully he has. But
so he was like a teen in this.
um, well, he's
Well, I
supposed
mean,
to
it
be,
was
but
supposed to be a teen.
he's supposed to be, but he looks like he looks like he looks pretty. I mean, that's a big thing with this movie too. Is a lot of these people are supposed to be teenagers, and they just flat out look like they are. Well, because there's like a 5 year time jump, and so they're supposed to be teens back then, but now they're adults. But they always looked how they looked at the 5 year later mark. So it's just kind of funny. And like, um, if I could
There,
remember his name, is it Tom
there.
Atkins?
Tom
Tom.
Atkins is in. Yeah, Tom Atkins is
Hmm.
it's kind of a horror. He's a horror character actor. He
Yeah,
was
I love him, man.
Yeah,
He
he's
was in
great in
the remake.
Halloween 3, Season of the Witch,
Yeah.
as
Oh
the lead.
yeah, yeah. And then he was in The Fog.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then he was in Night of the Creeps too, I believe, which is amazing. I love that one too. But I love him, but unfortunately, he's in the beginning, and you're like, oh, sick. He's gonna be the detective, and then it does the 5 year later time jump, and then it's like he's not, and it's like, damn it. Like, but yeah, the movie's pretty bad, but I found the plot to be kind of like interesting. I'm always really interested to see. Normally remakes don't really hit the mark, but not saying that this one does. Uh, sorry. I found the plot to be interesting. I kind of like how they kind of changed up things, and it's also it's its own thing, but it also does pay respects to the original in terms of the story, and also some of like visual cues that they take from the original. And just to kind of add one more final note on it, it was a made for, well, I guess two more. It's called My Bloody Valentine 3D, so it was a part of the gimmick. the 3D gimmick. So there's some really bad ones. I think there's one kind of 3D kill that I think is fine. I don't want to spoil it, but most of them are pretty bad. They're kind of funny to watch.
Yeah, you showed me the eye one, the one where
Yeah,
the pickaxe goes
that,
backwards
yeah.
into the guy's head and the eye pops out.
Yeah, that one's fun. I think there's two kind of 3D ones that kind of lessen the ending a little bit to me. Not that the ending's too crazy, but there's one scene in particular that I think should kind of be called out, or not that I think should be called out, but I think it should be. I just kind of want to bring it into questioning because I know I talked to you briefly, but there's a scene where a woman and a man are having sex, and the man decides to record the woman, and unknowingly to her, and so she's like, "No, you can't do that," and she's still naked and everything, and so this scene lasts on for like. It feels like a long time, but it's maybe like 3 or 4 minutes. But it ends up she's getting chased by the killer, but she's naked throughout the whole thing, and I did find that to be kind of exploitive on her part. Not on her part, but on the filmmaker's part for doing that to this actress. I don't think she really needed to be naked for 4 minutes, and you know. I don't know. It was just that part. I was like, okay, that's kind of weird. That's bad. So it was just interesting to see how the original was made in a time where that was kind of the norm, and it didn't do that. And then this one
came out the same year as Porky's, and they were both Canadian productions. So
well, so there's one definitely gave in to the naughtiness that time, I guess, if you want to call it that. But yeah, those were the only two. I think I could go really in depth, but I don't want to take up too much time.
Well, when you spoke about how it jumps from 5 years, it jumps between those 5-year time periods. It reminded me that I watched Dr. Zhivago last week, the David Lean film. There's like 3 hours and a 3 hour and 20-minute epic, about a love story from the Russian Revolution to World War II. And similarly, Julie Christie does not age at all between the Russian Revolution, need I remind you, World War One, to World War II, so the 30s. She looks exactly the same. It was, I don't know, it's like what, the eighth or ninth highest grossing film of all time when adjusted for inflation, which is incredible when you think about the types of movies that make that much money now and what audiences are willing to, go to the movies at all to see something, let alone, a 3 hour and 20-minute epic that's based off of a novel is pretty amazing to me.
Yeah.
But it was just way too long. Of the lean epics, I find Bridge on the River Kwai to be a much better film. It's a little bit shorter, but it's also nearly 3 hours long, but it's a lot more satisfying. I think the story's more engrossing, is better. Dr. Zhivago is a beautiful film, though. It wasn't filmed in the USSR because the novel was actually quite controversial at the time and was actually banned there. And then I read something about how reading about how the CIA was like trying to give out as many copies of Dr. Zhivago as possible to make sure that the novel won like a Nobel Prize. Crazy espionage story. Now the novel's taught in Russia, but anyways, they had to film it in Spain, but you still get some really nice landscape shots. It's like, one of those 50s epics that are just in like the widest widescreen possible. Yeah, well, just because they wanted to make it so like as many people would be able to go see it, or they wanted to make it so like you'd have to go to the theater because they were trying to compete with TV at the time. So yeah, it was. I enjoyed some aspects of it, but I think that there's just better lean films. And then also it kind of was a bit ridiculous to have all these people with Russian names in the film be played by the most British people possible, like Alec Guinness.
Mm-hmm.
Not even like none of these people are even attempting to sound like they're Russian. They just have like British accent.
Well, I guess I just kind of want to throw one more thing out there in terms of a time jump. There's a little known film called Central Intelligence. And at the beginning, it has a fat rock,
Yeah.
and he's singing in the shower, and they de-age him, and it looks fantastic. And then they do like a 20-year or something, like 10-year thing, and then it's regular rock,
And
So
he's buff.
it's
Yeah.
quite interesting to see that,
Yeah, me and Fulton this whole weekend were just we're just
Binging
we're
that
just
one clip.
yeah, we're just binging that one clip from Central Intelligence.
Yeah.
We haven't even seen the film. We just thought it was really funny that they put the rock's face on
Yeah.
somebody else's body,
Yeah.
and
It's
it looks really bad.
it's man, it's awesome. He looks exactly the same in the face, but not in the body. But
Perhaps a future film.
mm-hmm.
No.
Well, we'll have to get your dad on the show,
My dad is a big fan of Central Intelligence.
He's our Central Intelligence
some
correspondent, yeah. Well, are you ready to hop into news?
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay. So, I did not know this was happening. I knew it was happening, I just didn't know when, but the Golden Globes have happened. The announcements are out. I didn't know if we should really cover all of them or if we should just kind of announce it. So, I guess for time's sake, the winners have been announced. I've heard that the actual live stream that they did was kind of bad. Have you heard anything about it?
I've heard that there were a bit of I heard secondhand that there were a bit of technical difficulties from Greg Turkington.
Well, I think in the age of COVID, as of right now, it's to be expected. There's going to be some technical hiccups.
But the Oscars are actually going to be in person, from what I read.
For real?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how they're gonna do it, but
Yeah, that's surprising. But if they're trying it, I hope they're safe when doing it. I know they just built that huge Oscars museum thing or something, if I remember correctly. I know they just got there. I think they might still be building it, but there is a new rom-com coming out with George Clooney and Julia Roberts called Ticket to Paradise. So that will be happening, so that's cool.
Sweet.
There's a reunion in the midst between Christian Bale and Scott Cooper called The Pale Blue Eye. I believe Scott Cooper, did he do Into the Furnace? Or am I thinking of I forget which movie they did first. But in other news, there's a Terminator anime in the works at Netflix. So hopefully hopefully Arnold comes back to do a little bit of voice acting for that one. That one would be kind of funny to see.
Yeah.
Florence Pugh and Morgan Freeman are teaming up in a film called The Good Person. I say teaming up, but I think that's just the casting that's been released for A Good Person. Neil Blomkamp, along with two other writers that are escaping my brain at the moment, they are working on a follow-up to District 9 called District 10. Which
Creative.
Yeah. I think me and Chris talked about it a little over the weekend. I don't personally think that it needs to happen, but I'll probably check it out because I am a fan of the first one. But I don't really see the point as of right now. I know I'm gonna butcher this name, so just bear with me. Ta-Nehisi Coates, I'm sorry,
Ta-Nehisi Coates.
Ta-Nehisi Coates, is working on the new Superman film with J.J. Abrams as the producer. So that's pretty interesting. There's not too much known about it at the moment. Um, George A. Romero had a film from 1973, and it's been deemed his lost film. That's called The Amusement Park, and it will be released on Shudder. It should be coming like pretty soon now, from what I'm hearing. Steven Soderbergh has cast Zoe Kravitz in his next film called Kimi. So that's interesting. I'm assuming it's another iPhone film because that seems to be the way that he's really sticking to that. Paul W.S. Anderson has his next film lined up, and it will be an adaptation of George R.R. Martin's The Lost Lands, and it will have Mila Djokovic, of course, and Dave Bautista.
Yes.
He can't make a movie without his wife, which is okay. John M.
It's
Chu.
sweet.
Yeah, they have a nice partnership that's been going on for a while. John M. Chu is working on The Great Chinese Art Heist. So that'll be his next film. Excuse me. Pixar has decided to release a new trailer for their next film, Luca, which I believe is getting, I don't remember now that I'm thinking about it. I think it's getting the theater and then Disney Plus release. But that might change, who knows. But speaking of release schedules for films, the next Mission Impossible and The Quiet Place Part 2 will have their release, and then 45 days after the initial release, they will go on to video on demand, or what they're kind of deeming premium video on demand now for some reason. Premium just means that you pay 20 instead of like $4 or $5. But Michael Fassbender is being eyed for David Fincher's next film, which will be going on Netflix, called The Killer, because he still has a partnership with Netflix at the moment. The actor, yeah, there is a adaptation of Donald E. Westlake's book, The Actor. The adaptation just got Ryan Gosling to sign on. So that's good too. Halle Berry is starring in The Mothership for Netflix. Spider-Man, the third Spider-Man film, has gotten its title, and it's called No Way Home. So they're continuing that little naming scheme thing. But in terms of other DC news, and sorry we don't have. I feel like I've had to talk about a lot of Marvel and superhero stuff, but there's not too much going on at the moment. Angel, sorry, Angel Manuel Soto is set to direct the Blue Beetle film for DC. So that's the news we got for this week. Are you ready to take an ad break, Chris?
Yeah, let's do it.
Ooh. Okay. And we are back.
We're here to discuss the second highest grossing Canadian film of all time.
What's the first one?
My Big Fat Greek Wedding.
Two heavy hitters. So like we said earlier, we had some issues with things that led us to Porky's. And for those who might not know, Porky's is a teen sex comedy that was it 81?
81, yeah.
81. They came out in 1981, and it follows a group of horny dudes, horny teens, and their misadventures in trying to get. This is my shot at what a synopsis would be, because if someone watches it, they're probably not going to be able to tell what the hell is going on. But my guess, there's two arcs going on. One is that Pee-wee is trying to get laid, and the second one is that they want to get revenge against Porky for not getting them laid. And so, in typical Podcast 43 fashion, Chris, what is your First impression of Porky.
I think it's really bad. It's a really bad
What?
movie.
Wait, no. You watched the wrong movie, Chris.
Oh, you're sorry. I must have accidentally watched the 3 other Porky's sequels.
Yeah.
But no, Porky's is not a good movie. And even if you look at it kind of, and you look at like the politics of this film, it's also
Astonishing.
quite an astonishingly bad film, because it really lacks any type of depth that you can even look into it. Like, so, you have the arc of these high schoolers in the 50s in Florida that they all want to lose their virginity, which, if you've seen American Pie, similar stuff. But American Pie, at least, while I think also kind of being a bit I don't know, not also having its own set of issues, it at least has more of a clear plot than something like Porky's, where that's their plan. But then they also get revenge on Porky, a nightclub owner who wronged them in the movie, but it's not really brought up or in the forefront until like the last 20 minutes, which is like when the movie actually becomes something a little bit interesting.
Yeah. Well, it actually has a plot. I think most of the film, there's no true like trajectory. And like, to me, not saying, I mean, a film can be a hangout film, and I would deem it a hangout film where you get to hang out with these characters, but they're just not good people. Yeah. I mean, right off the, just to say something about the opening really quick, right off the gate, the N word is dropped. There's Hispanic slurs. It's homophobic. I mean, really, any other race you can think of, you get you get some slur from it in this movie, and but sorry, continue. Sorry.
It's just like, and then and then so yeah, all these characters aren't really they're not good people. They're not really interesting characters. They're just obnoxious. And so then they finally do get their revenge on Porky by destroying his club. But there are also people that are working in there, such as sex workers and other employees that don't have anything to do. They don't have anything to do with Porky. And they're the people inside of Porky's when it gets destroyed. Porky isn't even in there. He gets kicked into his moat, so he's in the water again. So yeah, it's like, oh cool, you guys totally owned Porky. And then like Porky also has the cops are on the dole in the area that Porky works in, and they chase after him, and then they abuse their power earlier in the film, and they destroy one of the cars of one of the high schoolers. And it's like, oh wow, that's really bad. That's an abuse of power by a police officer. And then the cops and Porky chase them into the other county line, and then a cop that's in the high schoolers district does pretty much the same exact thing. Tim. Yeah, he pretty much does the same exact thing, but it's seen as cool because they're doing because they got revenge. And so like, you look at the morality of the film, and there really isn't any. So you don't really know what the film's trying to say. And like, the only thing that you really have to get from this film is that it's almost like all these high schoolers are coming of age, and the only way that they can think of, or the only way that like life or society projects upon them to come of age, which is have sex. And it's like, this is what we have to do because we have to become men. And they try to imitate that with many misadventures along the way. But
I mean,
They're
just
not good
to
misadventures.
yeah, no, there's just to kind of highlight what these teens are like. There's one scene between what's his name? Brian and Tim, I believe. And Brian is he's Jewish, and Tim makes fun of him for it. And they
Yeah.
end up having a fight. And two friends of Tim, and they're also like two main characters. They walk up to Brian after Brian wins the fight, and they're like, "Listen, we know Tim's a bad guy, and we don't like everything he does, but he's our friend." And Brian is just like, "Okay." He's like, I see, I see. And then they stop him again, and he's like, we get it. Like, we don't stand by everything he does, but he's still our friend. And then they kind of look at each other and like smirk a little bit. And then Brian just pulls off. And I don't understand really what the point of that scene was. Because you think that there's no excusing that you can't really excuse someone else's behavior.
Anti-Semitism.
Yeah, you can't really do that for them, and it's not really. I mean, another thing that's kind of weird is that there's no point in the film where Tim walks back up to Brian. It's like, listen, I'm sorry I treated you like that. That was unfair. That was not cool of me. I shouldn't have done that. And there's a reason that explains why he had that outlook, which I guess,
But
but it's
even
still,
then,
yeah, like it still doesn't excuse that. But they become pals at the end for some reason. But it's like
yeah,
never, it's so weird. And like, I don't get what that scene is trying to convey. It's like, oh, it's okay because he's a good guy sometimes. Like, no, that's not, that's not how that works. Um, and so it's a weird film in terms of like you said, morality. Like, there's really, all these dudes are just like so horny. Like, they're like manipulating people to get what they want. They're like tricking people. They really don't. I mean, honestly, if you look at the film, they don't even really care about each other as long as like the prank happens or like the joke happen. So it's weird.
it's not. Yeah, it's not really. Like I said, it's kind of ideologically muddled
Hmm.
from what I. And the only thing I could really grasp from that was, yeah, like what I said before about them trying to achieve what they believe is manhood or.
Hmm.
But yeah, it's also strange that yeah Bob Clark wrote and directed this, and you just browse through Bob Clark's filmography, and it's kind of just a strange collection of films because he directed Black Christmas, the original
Hmm.
Black Christmas, and then Christmas Story, Baby Geniuses, and Baby Geniuses 2, which I actually believe was his last film before his death, unfortunately.
Hmm.
But oh no, sorry, he directed one other film. But
Porky's 3, Porky's Revenge.
yeah, strangely, he didn't direct Porky's. He only directed Porky's 2. He didn't direct Porky's Revenge.
Oh. Oh, and another thing, there's not enough Porky in this film.
Yeah, for it
Porky's
being
the
called
star.
Porky. Yeah, they really don't. Porky is not in the film nearly
Yeah.
as much as advertised, and
Hmm.
it's quite upsetting because he does have quite an on-screen presence and is a quite a good antagonist.
Yeah. I
But
mean.
mainly we have to focus on dumb shower gags
Hmm.
and other things where the guys are really creepy,
Hmm.
but it's played off for laughs because it's funny. Like it's just not that's like the biggest issue is that the film is not funny. It just makes you kind of wince and you go, ooh,
Yeah,
you
like
know.
I think there were like two parts that I thought were kind of funny. Like the whole like there's a plot or a little kind of side adventure that they do in the beginning, where two members of like the dudes are like, okay, we're gonna prank the rest of our friend group, and we're gonna go out to this shack in the middle of the woods, and we're going to hire a sex worker, and we're all gonna, well, it's wrong, it's weird, but um their plan is that they're all going to pay her to have sex with all of them.
There's
And
like
they
7 of them.
yeah,
Like,
and it's well, it's funny because it's so stupid, and they're like, okay, well, I'm
yeah,
gonna go
yeah.
first because I'm the tallest and I have the biggest, and then the other one's like, well, I'll go next because I have the most stamina or something.
Yeah, but
Like,
yeah, that stuff is funny because it shows how ridiculous the main character's actions are,
yeah.
and how they kind of view like sexuality and and sex and stuff. But then there's other parts where it's never where there's other parts where they do really weird stuff, and it's just kind of like matter of fact. It's never like, oh, look at how ridiculous this is. It's just like, oh, boys being boys type
Yeah.
stuff, type mentality.
Yeah, I mean there weren't many moments where I genuinely thought it was very funny, but um I don't know. Well, one thing I kind of wanted to talk about is, there's some teen sex comedies that really like captured America at the time, like American Pie and a few others, and it's interesting to see because I asked my dad about this film, and it was a pretty big deal when he was growing up. It's interesting to see how no one really I understandably too, no one really talks about this film. And I also think it's kind of interesting that as time has gone on, we still do have teen sex comedies, but I don't really think they reach the heights and they don't capture as many people as they used to. Like the most recent one I can think about that I know that happened, I don't believe it became a very big thing, was Blockers, which was like the John Cena and Leslie Mann, and I'm
Yeah, I
forgetting
think
the other person.
one of the few films that I've walked out of, actually. But
Did you at
no,
least see the John Cena butt chug?
I didn't see the John Cena vodka. But it wasn't even on my. It wasn't. It was actually not even my choice. It was the people that I was with just really weren't having it. So,
I get
so
you.
I had to. So I had to. But I would have stayed. I mean, it wasn't. It wasn't awful.
Yeah,
It
I
wasn't
agree.
funny necessarily, but
It
it wasn't
wasn't.
terrible.
In the package, the Netflix movie, I believe that's a teen, kind of like a teen. I guess you could call it a teen sex. I haven't seen it, but I would assume so. Um, but yeah, but I think it's just interesting that none other kind of movies have entered that kind of. I don't know if
Well,
you'd call
Revenge of
it
the Nerds
zeitgeist.
is another one that was a really big deal at the time
Hmm.
that I still haven't seen.
I haven't seen that one either. I know that one is still holds some relevancy enough to get a reboot or a remake or a sequel. I forget which one of. I think it's a reboot. I want to say.
But it's like there are American Pie has its own slew of problems, like I've brought up. It's like that
Well,
whole part about like, oh, let's broadcast Shannon Elizabeth. Have you seen American Pie?
I've seen
Oh, okay.
American. I've seen the one with Ryan Reynolds, the fraternity one.
Oh, Van Wilder?
Oh, Van Wilder. Oh, I get. Is that American Pie?
No, that's
Oh,
not.
well, oops. Um, yeah, I've seen bits and clips of all of them because they used to always be on Comedy Central.
They're
Um,
definitely one of those things that you watch and you're like, teehee, I'm it's I feel so mature for watching this. Like,
like as a kid. Um, yeah, no, I've never seen American Pie. It's on my list just because I just want to see it out of curiosity. But I know I mean, even American Pie is still I mean, they're not pumping out mainline entries, but they're doing their off-brand one. I know that Netflix just released like a sorority kind of one, so it's interesting to see that one's still around too. But
Yeah.
mm,
Uh, I think it's just a lot of. I think times have just changed, really,
yeah,
for better or for worse, and I don't really think that they have the same relevance. And if they
hmm
do, it should be kind of in a like I don't I guess I'll coin the term post sex comedy where it's a comedy that comments on the absurdity of sex comedies, I
hmm
guess. And more of a wink and a nod and ironic one, which
hmm
I think is kind of like the way that Blockers went about it, but
hmm
at least from what I've seen, because I don't want to comment on the whole film, but
yeah,
I think at least from what I've seen, it also has a problem with like a lot of comedies that come out now where it's like almost like they didn't really have a script and it was just more kind of like improv heavy,
yeah,
which is for another discussion.
yeah. There was not to. I guess I just kind of want to highlight it, and I was recently listening to an episode of Cometown where I want to say Stavros was talking about the lack of like teen sex comedies now, and there are, I think we have more identities now than we used to, or not specifically, but I think it's kind of harder to capture all of those identities on film. I'm sure it can be done, but I think where was I going with that? Was that um, for some reason just one would do it all back then somehow, and now it can't really fit into what audiences are looking for now, and also
And I think
it,
that's good,
yeah,
that
no,
we have
yeah, I agree.
because like a movie like this is so everybody feels almost like so like homogenous.
Mm-hmm.
It's such a white film too. It's
Yeah.
like everybody and and film should represent the time that our current time and how things have changed and how and in our culture and stuff. And
Mm-hmm.
so like you look at now people it's a lot different
Mm-hmm.
as far as where we're at culturally, and especially considering like what we talked about with Porky's, where a lot of the jokes were, I would even say, dated for 1981.
Yeah.
I would say.
I would, there's, oh God, there's some really bad ones in there, man. I was just surprised at I don't know, just like they just dropped some heavy stuff, man. It's insane but like you said, sign of the times. I guess they thought that was acceptable back then, which isn't, which is crazy, but now, but I'm sorry. Lost my train of thought
Yeah,
there for a moment, but it's crazy.
it's and it's also just interesting to look back at something like this,
Mm-hmm.
40 years later,
Mm-hmm.
and say, and just kind of see how things have changed, I guess.
I don't think I can recommend this movie.
I don't think I can
I
either.
think if you there are better teen sex comedies of that time that you could go back and look at, and there are way better hangout films that you could go watch in comparison to this one, that have actually likable characters, and you want to see how their story unfolds. If this movie had more Porky, if we got a solo Porky spinoff, I'd love to see that, see how that one would play out. But it's weird to where the people that you're supposed to be rooting for are actually worse than the villain himself. So, you know.
Well,
Porky I mean, he runs a brothel, and there's never any hints that he's mistreating anybody other than people he doesn't. Well, I don't know. I don't even know if I can say
well,
with good
yeah.
conscience that he's a good person.
I mean, he's donning the stars and bars on his hat.
Oh
So
yeah, I forgot. There's like every time there's a shot inside Porky's, you can at least see like 3 Confederate flags. I
yeah.
forgot about
So
that.
yeah.
Oh
Do you
boy.
retract your
I
statement, or do you?
retract. I wholeheartedly retract my statement. I completely forgot about that. Oh, well,
That's Porky.
it honestly reminds, I think I told you this. It's reminiscent of a movie that we covered called I Want to Hold Your Hand, where you can't really root for anyone in that movie. I guess you can root for the Beatles for their so they get their performance and they get away from those people, but they're just a group of bad apples, and that's what this film is too. But I don't know.
That's Porky's.
That's Porky's for you, and that's a Porky's for you.
You probably didn't. I bet Fulton, you didn't expect that you'd ever watch Porky's, but here we are.
No,
Thanks to
would.
Kino Lorber.
Yeah. Thanks. I don't. It still blows my mind. Why would they not do a subtitle track?
For like a boutique Blu-ray label.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I know it's kind of a little out there. I don't think a lot of people are really dying to get their copy of it, but I would still I'd very much appreciate a copy of it that does have a subtitle track, because I am interested. I mean, I like Bob Lester's films, from what I've seen. Not to
Dick
go.
Lester.
Oh, Dick Lester. Damn it. Sorry.
You got Bob Clark,
Yeah,
director of Porky.
The ultimate collaboration. Um, yeah, Dick Lester. I mean, I like A Hard Day's Night a good bit. I'm waiting to see Help, and I would actually like to see his non-Beatle related films.
Heard a lot of things about The Knack and How to Get It, which I think is also a sex comedy from the 60s.
Well, I know I threw out briefly Screwballs, which I still kind of want to check out. I'm interested to see if how that one would hold up in comparison to this one, because I know they're kind of a similar kind of time frame.
Screwball comedies are better than sex comedies, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'll take the Philadelphia Story over American Pie any day.
I mean, yeah, no, I agree.
Controversial opinion.
I don't think you'll find too many people that'll disagree with you on that one.
I think that I think that there's not a lot of comparison between the on-screen presence of somebody like Katharine Hepburn and Tara Reid in An American Pie.
Oh man, do we do a retrospective on American Pie?
Well, the question would be, where do we start? Do we just do the theatrical releases, or do we do the direct-to-video sequels that only have Eugene Levy in them because he's the only one that wanted to return?
I guess in a hypothetical world, if we were actually going to do it, I'd say the theater ones first, just out of pure kind of like curiosity. But
we're watching, yeah.
We've got some other kind of retrospective ideas that we're kind of ping-ponging around and talking about doing. But do you have any more anything else that you kind of wanted to add to Porky's before we announce the feature film?
Porky's is a bad film, but I guess I'm happy I watched it. I guess is all I can really say, because now I can say that I've watched Porky's, and I can tell people to not watch Porky's, so I can spread the there's better things to watch on Amazon.
Oh yeah,
I do think it
like My Bloody Valentine.
I do think it's really funny that Disney now owns the rights to Porky's, though.
Hopefully, we'll get that 4K remaster soon.
Yeah, come on.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah, Disney said we were gonna do a re-release of James Cameron's The Abyss, but we just figured that the Porky's 4K remaster was more important. That's what
the Porky's remaster collection. Well, I guess we're ready to announce the next week's feature film, which people probably already know. Will be News of the World. Last year's Tom Hanks led film, and we will have real insider news, right?
Yep.
As our guests, and we're really excited to have them on and to collaborate with them. So
yeah, they'll be able to give us more of a production standpoint perspective on the film, which is interesting, and I'm excited to hear their thoughts and their perspective. But yeah, well, so you guys have a good one, and like always, stay wavy.
Be good and be safe.